2,000 years ago, the known world was held in the iron grip of the Roman Empire. When Emperor Augustus wanted to count his subjects and tax them, he ordered a census. Everyone had to travel to their ancestral hometowns, entirely at the empire's command. A carpenter named Joseph, tracing his lineage back to King David, traveled with his pregnant fiancée, Mary, to a small Judean town called Bethlehem. The town was so overflowing with travelers that they had to take shelter in a stable. There, surrounded by livestock and straw, Mary gave birth to a son named Jesus. The announcement of this birth didn't go to governors or generals. According to the accounts, an angel appeared to a group of shepherds working the night shift in nearby fields. Farther away in the east, a group of astrologers tracked a severe celestial anomaly, packed up gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and followed the star toward Judea. The ancient world operated on a simple rule. Rulers arrive through military conquest, through massive wealth, or fortified royal bloodlines. This child was born into absolute poverty, sleeping in a feeding trough, completely bypassing the established halls of power. When the Eastern astrologers arrived in Judea, they went to the court of King Herod and asked where they could find the new Jewish king. Herod was terrified. He was highly insecure about his throne, and a rival claimant was a problem he knew exactly how to solve. To protect his grip on power, Herod issued a brutal decree. He ordered his soldiers to march into Bethlehem and kill every infant boy under the age of 2. Before the soldiers arrived, an angel warned Joseph in a dream. In the dead of night, he packed up Mary and the child and fled into the deserts of Egypt, turning the prophesied king into a stateless refugee. The political establishment didn't laugh off this penniless infant. They recognized him instantly as a mortal threat to their system of absolute domination by force. 30 years pass. Jesus lives a quiet life as a carpenter in Nazareth, until a prophet named John begins preaching repentance to massive crowds. Jesus steps into the Jordan River to be baptized by John, marking the official launch of his public mission. Immediately after, he retreats into the harsh wilderness for a 40-day fast. The accounts describe the devil appearing to offer him easy worldly power: turn stones to bread, bow down and take control of all the kingdoms on earth. Jesus refuses to weaponize his divinity. When it comes time to build his organization, he ignores military tacticians and religious scholars. He walks the shores of the Sea of Galilee and drafts common laborers, tax collectors, and fishermen like Peter and Andrew. Rome built its legions from the top down, relying on rigid hierarchies and heavy taxation. Jesus assembled his inner circle from the absolute bottom of the social ladder, preparing to build a movement entirely from the grassroots up. He begins traveling from village to village, and his following explodes through undeniable acts of provision and healing. At a wedding in Cana, he turns water into high-quality wine. Later, he feeds 5,000 people using 5 loaves and 2 fish. He demonstrates total authority over the natural world. During a violent storm on lake, his disciples are terrified their boat will sink, until they see Jesus calmly walking across the water to rescue them. He takes this massive platform to a hillside and outlines a highly subversive philosophy. Instead of praising the strong and the wealthy, he declares the opposite: the meek, the mourning, and the merciful are the true inheritors of the kingdom of heaven. He tells this massive crowd to love their enemies and pray for the people persecuting them, commanding them to completely abandon the logic of revenge. The religious elites, known as the Pharisees, watch this happen and are furious. Jesus openly violates their rigid traditions by healing a paralyzed man on the Sabbath, and he claims the divine authority to forgive people's sins directly. Jesus wielded enough public influence to spark a violent uprising and overthrow the regional government. By refusing to play by the rules of worldly domination, he frustrated the elites so deeply that they began actively plotting his execution. He travels to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. Crowds cheer him in the streets. During a final meal with his disciples, he takes bread and wine, blesses them, and says they represent his body and blood, a new covenant built entirely on his own sacrifice. Later that night in the Garden of Gethsemane, one of his disciples, Judas, leads armed guards straight to him. Jesus is sweating blood in deep agony, but he refuses to fight back, submitting completely to arrest. He is dragged before the religious council on false charges of blasphemy, then handed over to the Roman governor, Pilate. Pilate interrogates him and finds no legal fault, but facing a riotous, shouting mob, Pilate caves to political pressure and orders him to be crucified. At this exact moment, the standard mechanics of earthly power, political convenience, rigged courts, and the threat of a violent mob appear to have successfully crushed a rival movement. Jesus is brutally whipped, crowned with thorns, and nailed to wood on a hill called Golgotha. Hanging between two thieves while the crowd mocks him, he commits one final, subversive act. He asks God to forgive the men executing him. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he breathes his last. The earth shakes, the heavy curtain inside the temple tears from top to bottom, and his body is sealed inside a tomb behind a massive stone, under the watch of Roman guards. 2 mornings later, Mary Magdalene and other women arrive to find the Roman guards gone, the heavy stone moved, and the tomb empty. Jesus appears alive, speaking to Mary, and later walking into a locked room to show his wounds to his stunned disciples. He spends the next 40 days with them, issuing a final instruction to take this message to all nations, before ascending into the clouds. By rejecting the sword, allowing an empire to execute him, and then walking out of a sealed grave, Jesus established his legacy. He proved that true eternal authority is never won by force. It is won through self-sacrificing love.